Okay, now we're going to switch to solving quadratics. When we solve quadratics, what we're looking for is the zeros, also called the roots, where things touch where the parabola touches the x-axis. Those are the zeros or the roots, and that's what we're solving for. And there are several different methods that we're going to cover in the next 4 or 5 videos. There's the square root method, factoring method, completing the square, and there will be 2 videos for that, and then the quadratic formula method. All right, let's get started with solve by taking the square root method. And this method is used when there is no linear x term, meaning there is no x to the first power. Notice there's 10m squared, and then there's the constant, but there's no x to the first power. So the trick here is to get the x squared, or the m squared in this case, by itself. So the first thing you're going to do, remember you get rid of unattached stuff first, so you're going to subtract 5, subtract 5. All right, so let's see what I did here. Negative 64 subtract 5 is negative 69. Then the next thing that you're going to do is divide both sides by 10, because the inverse of multiplying is dividing. When you divide, if the fraction can simplify, go ahead and simplify it. If it cannot, do not convert it to a decimal, because we want exact answers, not rounded. So the next step will be taking the square root of both sides. Look it, there's a negative sign in there, which means that we're going to have to rewrite this as -1 times 69 over 10. And what is the square root of -1? You can look at the front of my board. Remember what that is? You're going to have positive or negative imaginary I. And that's what I did there. I took the square root of both sides. And when I take the square root of both sides, that leaves an I comes out. But then we have the square root of 69. Essentially, this means the same thing to the square root of 10. Well, we don't want to leave this in the denominator, a radical. So we're going to have to multiply top and bottom by square root of 10. Well, 69 times 10 is 690, so we have square root of 690. Root 10 times root 10 is 10. And then remember, when you take the square root of a quadratic, you have a positive and negative answer. So m would equal negative I root 690 over 10 and positive I root 690 over 10. All right, that is the square root method. You're going to have to be really careful to remember the positive negative. Let's do another quick example really quick. I'll just make up something. Let's say we had x squared is equal to 64. So you could just take the square root, both sides. Well, one of the most common mistakes that I see students make, they say, oh, x is equal to 8. But remember, when you're solving a quadratic and there's a square root, you have to remember to put positive and negative 8, which means if you were to graph that, one of the roots or zeros is negative 8, and one of the roots is positive 8, and then that parabola is going to go way down there someplace. And then there's your quadratic. All right, that's